Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, Staff Training and Research Institute of Distance Education, STRIDE, Master's Degree Programs, Master of Arts, Distance Education, MADE, Second Year, MDE 417 Distance Education, Economic Perspective, Block-3 Costing in Distance Education, Unit-1 Cost Analysis in Distance Education. 1.1 Introduction. This is the first unit of this module on cost analysis of distance education. We look at various activities within distance education, D, which constitute the cost centers and which are taken into consideration for calculating various costs in D. Besides discussing various input and output considerations, we discuss research studies on costing approaches, cost effectiveness, and cost efficiency, which shall provide a general understanding on how costing in D centers around these approaches. With this general understanding, it will be easy to conceptualize cost structures and cost functions presented in the second and third units and on costing technology enabled. Learning discussed in the fourth unit, 1.2 Learning Objectives. After going this unit, you should be able to times define costing in distance education and describe the reasons for studying educational costs, times list and describe various types of cost calculations in distance teaching learning vis-a-vis the input-output considerations, and times briefly analyze the available research on cost effectiveness and cost efficiency of distance education. 1.3 Why study educational costs? An educational cost function expresses the relationship between the inputs and the outputs of education. An assessment of such a relationship lends perspective with regard to the quantity, the quality, and the forms of inputs needed for producing one unit of output. These, in effect, determine the relationship between the average cost and the marginal cost, and also between the economies and diseconomies of scale. Such analyses help us gain an idea of the cost of education and the major factors that account for it, which are obviously of crucial importance from the point of view of the planning and management of an educational system. The planners need to know where the money is coming from and where it is going, since about 3.5% of the GNP is devoted to educational development in India. Such a large proportion of expenditure, which in order of priority, is next to the level of expenditure on national defense, necessitates for the planners to make a thorough analysis of educational costs, especially for the following purposes: I. To discover the possible imbalance, their extent, etc. in the allocation of educational resources to different subsectors of the educational system or to different regions of the country. 2. To identify the factors that are responsible for the rapid increase in expenditure or to examine the pattern of uses of funds for education. And 3. To identify the potential sources of funds not yet tapped for financing education. The above purpose cannot be met without analyzing such aspects of expenditure as the sources of the funds for education. The components of expenditure, like capital costs, recurring costs, and the unit costs by level and type of education, etc. The extent to which different types of costs are involved in realizing various educational objectives can be explained through the simple cost models, which are generally referred to as cost functions. The specification of cost functions helps identify the degree of influence exercised by different factors which have a significant bearing on the development of educational programs. The cost functions provide desirable perspectives with respect to both the pattern of distribution of financial resources for various educational purposes and the areas which require a close scrutiny for ensuring efficiency in the use of resources. 1.4 Types of activities and costing in distance education. We shall examine these aspects in the context of distance education in the second and third units. Before doing that, we need to examine the various activity centers in the operation of the distance education system, which indicate various cost centers, i.e. activities or group of activities which constitute a portion of the total cost. These activities also influence the fixed and variable costs, as well as the average and marginal costs. In the following section, we discuss these activity centers in the distance education system, followed by input-output considerations and research outcomes on approaches followed to study cost-effectiveness and cost-efficiency in distance education. At this stage, you may recall or refer to these terms in the context of educational costing given in Unit 2 in Block 1. Within the operation of a distance education institution open university, the following major activities are undertaken. Times program course design, times program course development, times program course delivery, times program course evaluation. Therefore, these four major activities, which are briefed as follows, constitute the four major cost centers in distance education. The types and extent of expenditure involved in these four activity centers depend on the approach or mechanism followed by education institution. Generally, the following activities and expenditure are performed: program course design. The design of any new academic program starts with conducting a needs survey for such a new program or new course. The survey may cover times analysis of existing human resource requirement reports, times demand from the public or prospective students, times reports of national or provincial governments, times national need for gross enrollment ratio, GARE, results of academic research and analysis, times requirements of government departments or industries or national and international organizations, times requirement of particular communities or groups of people under democratization of education, and times requirement by the community for awareness and lifestyle changes. The positive outcome of the needs analysis leads to preparation of a concept note by the concerned faculty or program coordinator. The concept note details out the program title, objectives, target, groups, entry requirements, availability of experts for development of learning resources, print, audio, video, digital resources, and online resources, the modality of program development and delivery, possible sources of funding for the development of such a program, and the fee to be charged from students. All the above activities require faculty time and various expenses including faculty salary and honorarium paid to other experts. Program course development. This involves actual development of detailed program handbook, course modules and units, credit hours for each, technology, ICT, resources, student activities and practicum, student assignments, student program, guide, among others. All these activities also require time and money. The amount of time and the extent of expenditure depend on the modality mechanism followed in developing the learning resources. Various course development models are available, which can be further consulted. Pandagard, 2006, as also on the mechanism of media mix, supplementary, complementary, and integrated. Panda, 2006. Program course delivery. Once the program or the course, as part of any certificate, diploma, or degree program, gets fully developed, the next step is to implement the program, or in other words, deliver the program. This activity starts with advertisement for admission in the program, student admission, material printing and duplication of audio-video, AV, as per number of students admitted, material dispatch to students, other related communications to students, appointment of counselors, and if needed, opening up of new study centers, conduct of counseling, tutoring sessions and practicum, labs, computer centers, work or activity centers, internships, practice teaching, etc., evaluation of student assignments, conduct of examinations, etc. There may also be bulk SMS communication to students, online communication, additional web-based online learner support, call center support, among others. These activities require expenditures which are taken into consideration for calculation of costs, program course evaluation, distance teaching institutions are required to maintain their programs over a period of time, after which the programs need through evaluation and revision. Most institutions undertake this activity once in every 5 years of operation of a program. Till a program is completely evaluated, it is maintained across each semester or year. This involves maintenance of student record, counselor record, credit transfer, and re-registration, feedback from students, tutors, experts, which led to minor revision of the program or the courses each semester or each year. The expenses involved in these activities also contribute to calculation of cost of the program or the unit cost. 1.5 Input and output considerations. Comparisons of inputs and outputs of education facilitate the decision-making process, especially with respect to the allocation of resources. Like firms, educational institutions also transform inputs into outputs. A set of inputs like teachers, stationery, instructional, materials, furniture, building, etc. are combined in such a way as to produce the output, i.e., graduates with new knowledge and higher cognitive ability. The use of inputs entails definite cost in terms of both monetary expenditure and alternative investment opportunities that must be sacrificed to enable this transformation to occur. While, on the one hand, the costs of some of the inputs like expenditure on teachers' salaries are measured by monetary outlays, on the other, the costs of some other inputs like capital costs of durable assets and the foregone earnings of the students are imputed. The value of inputs in alternative uses is estimated thus. 1.5.1 Resource allocation considerations and measurement of educational benefits. As educational services are, to a large extent, treated as a social activity rather than an economic one, the allocation of resources is not determined by the market forces of supply and demand for education. The planners, however, need to know the costs and the benefits as well involved in producing different levels and combinations of educational outputs. In effect, the perceived knowledge of costs and benefits, which is gained from relevant comparisons of inputs and outputs, determines the ultimate size of the educational benefit. The costs and benefits of education are, however, not easily susceptible to measurement owing largely to conceptual and statistical problems. As a result of which the agreement on the benefits of education is hard to arrive at. This, therefore, distorts the educational decisions, cost-effectiveness, and cost-benefit analysis. The relationship between inputs and outputs can be analyzed by using techniques of productivity measurements like cost-effectiveness analysis, which, in essence, compares the cost of the inputs and the achievement of objectives, measured in terms of examination results, or some other measures of output and quality. There are two ways of undertaking cost-effectiveness analysis. One way is to compare the cost of two different institutions or educational methods, for instance, distance teaching and conventional face-to-face teaching. If the two types of education produce the same level of output, then the most cost-effective is the one which achieves this output at the least cost. Alternatively, if the output varies, then cost-effectiveness analysis can show which of the two alternatives achieves the higher level of output for a given cost. In both the cases, it is necessary to measure both costs and effectiveness in quantitative as well as qualitative terms. Cost-benefit analysis, given in Unit 3 of Block 1, is yet another way of analyzing the relationship between inputs and outputs. In order to use the techniques of cost-benefit analysis, it is necessary to measure both the costs and the benefits in economic or financial terms. On the other hand, in cost-effectiveness analysis, the outputs of education can be measured in terms of scores in achievement tests, examination results, or some other measures of educational quality. 1.5 Point to different categories of cost factors in distance education. In essence, the study of the relationship between the inputs and outputs of education is analogous to the concept of production, function in economic theory. The processes and forms of production in distance education are comparable to those of the manufacturing industry. Accordingly, the method of imparting knowledge, skills, and attitude at a distance is regarded as an industrialized form of teaching and learning. In this system of education, a teacher teaches at a distance through the use of a variety of media, with the production of high-quality teaching materials, which make it possible to instruct a large number of students spread over a wide geographical area. Obviously, this, as in an industrial enterprise, involves adherence to certain basic principles of planning and management of mass production, mechanization, rationalization of the decision-making process, standardization of the products, etc. Therefore, the inputs and the processes of utilization of those inputs in distance education differ considerably from the conventional education system, though the ultimate output remains the same in both the systems. The differences in inputs bring in new categories of factors that influence the costs of distance education. 1.6 Research on various costing approaches. Though there are a variety of costing approaches used in costing studies, generally two important approaches are considered as foundational and essential: cost-effectiveness and cost-efficiency. In distance education and online learning, these two approaches are also used for decision-making on programs to be offered, approaches to be adopted for teaching learning, and institutional program delivery strategies including cross-border delivery. Research undertaken on these two approaches within distance education is analyzed briefly in the following subsections. 1.6.1 Cost-effectiveness. Cost-effectiveness refers to achievement of pre-stipulated objectives within the pre-given budget, within the defined level of quality. Generally, the output is expressed in quantitative terms, though not necessary in monetary terms. The quality level of output is expressed in terms of any score or grade or rank, for instance, percentage of student pass out within a cohort, and a percentage of students securing distinction, first division, simple pass, and so on. Rumble, 1999, discusses various types of studies on cost effectiveness, which include the following: time study of short-term outputs, like student scores and grades, and long-term outputs, like more number of and quality courses, developed by faculty with additional workshops or faculty development programs, or study of destination of graduates after completion of the program of study. Time study of the effect of the use of educational technology, ICT, and/or online learning in reduction in program cost versus the quality of student learning. There are differing views and research studies on either increase or decrease of the quality of student learning experiences due to use of technology. It is generally believed that even if technology does not make much difference to student learning, it surely affects attitude, behavior, and time management. Time studies that attempted and found difficult to isolate the effects of multiple variables, for example, multiple learning resources, use of multiple ICTs, attributed to the output. Further, there have been difficulties in determining what is a good effect and what is bad. 1.6.2 Cost efficiency. Cost efficiency refers to either achievement of the stipulated objectives with lower than the given budget cost, or cost of an alternative strategy of implementation, which could indicate lower cost or higher output. Comparative studies on alternatives, alternative systems of program delivery, for instance, take into consideration the quality of education and quality of graduates for both the alternatives as equivalent or equal. When compared with cost effectiveness, you may realize that it is possible that one can be cost effective without being cost efficient, but the reverse is not possible, i.e., to be cost efficient, one needs to be cost effective. Rumble, 1986. Rumble, 1999, reviewed a number of studies on cost efficiency of distance education and technology-enabled learning. See also Unit 4 of this block, which suggests the following. Times the UNESCO-sponsored studies of the later part of the 20th century suggested that distance education was less costly with similar or better results than the traditional modes of education. The main reason was that a variety of media replaced the full-time teachers and thereby reduced the labor cost. Times in case of teacher education, distance education was found cheaper than any alternative. Rumble writes, overall, the evidence is sufficiently strong to support claims that distance education can be, under the right conditions, more cost-efficient than traditional classroom-based education. 1999, p.126. Times the factors which contributed to cost efficiency included large student enrollment, number of courses in the basket, number of years of course offer before revision, media choice and media mix, the extent of overhead costs, and full-time versus contractual staff. 1.7 Summary. We discussed in this unit that the study of educational costs contributes to be considered decision-making in the allocation of scarce resources to different sectors of education and activities within education, in the identification of factors contributing to increase or decrease in educational cost, and in tapping sources for additional resource mobilization. In the distance education system, which involves major activities relating to program design, development, delivery, and evaluation, study of both cost-effectiveness and cost-efficiency assume importance to establish right balance between inputs and outputs, to locate alternative strategies and modes of delivery, to decide upon the right media mix, and ascertain cost savings as well as sources of additional funding. Thank you. Subscribe to our channel for more updates, and we will see you with the next chapter.